Welcome to Walt Disney World Clicks. I'm your host, Kevin, and this week we are starting at Downtown Disney. Now, we are outside the House of Blues, where this structure is new. It is called the Smokehouse, as you can see, and as the name might imply, it is the sort of place where you can get barbecued foods and lots of meat. So there's the menu. Pulled pork sandwich is the one that we tried, and I'll show you that in a moment. I've had some other people tell me that the brisket sandwich came out for them a little bit less than optimal. They found it to be a bit of on the fatty side. There's the beer list. As you can see, it's all in bottles, and they do have a happy hour where you can get some of them for cheaper. There's a peek inside the kitchen, just an onstage kitchen itself. Now, there's that pulled pork sandwich that I promised you a view of earlier. We found it actually very worthwhile. The bun was very fresh, and the meat was flavorful, not at all fatty when you get it as a pulled pork sandwich. Now, on the backside of Downtown Disney, this is Lot Q, and these barricades are new in Lot Q. These used to be parking zones themselves, so they got a little section cordoned off. I'm not entirely certain what they're doing in the back of Downtown Disney. Over at Epcot, we caught this guy currently changing out the sign for the promenade. I think what they've done is taken away the mojito, so they're just installing a more permanent sign. We switched over to All-Star Sports, where the food court has recently been renovated, and you can see it looks fresh and new and airy and light. And it's all of these cartoon short look inspired, I guess they're separators. They're kind of painted glass, really. These are the things that we're here to mostly pay attention to because they're classic Disney looking things. And they've got a sense of humor, as you can tell, all about the sports, because this is the sports resort, after all. And so they've got the Fab Five doing various kinds of sports that might draw people to this hotel. Until you get to this one. Now, this one is closer to the back, and I'm going to be zooming us in on this portion over Minnie Mouse's head in just a moment here. Now, as you can tell, most of the background is filled with kind of blobs, indistinct blobs. But there is one person sticking kind of out in the middle there. And some of you may know who this is already. This is Steve Barrett, who is the guy responsible for the Hidden Mickey website. And so he publishes a Hidden Mickey book, which has got a magnifying glass on the cover, and it's tall and thin and yellow, and he searches for hidden Mickeys. He always wears this kind of floppy hat to protect his skin from the sun. He's a doctor, actually, an emergency room doctor. And so what we're looking at here, intentionally buried in this background, is not a hidden Mickey, but a hidden Steve, who hunts hidden Mickeys. So it's kind of the ultimate in tributes, I guess. And since we were here, I grabbed a picture of this Hall of Fame they've got set up here. It fooled me at first. These are all windows. These are all view screens. And so as you get closer, you perhaps recognize that someday this is going to be personalized to the magic bands walking by nearby. At the moment, there's a hidden Mickey there. And they've got speakers even embedded in here. So one assumes that they can do some pretty magical things there at All-Star Sports. I've been struggling for a long time to get good daytime pictures of these articulated buses, the flex buses, or as my wife calls them, the bendy buses. And indeed, here you can see that they are a little bit shorter than regular buses in individual halves. And so it's not quite an extra 100% in capacity. It's more like an extra 60 or 80%. Stopped by the Heritage House in Liberty Square again. Now there's a sign with FastPass Plus kiosk pointing toward it. All of the merchandise has been moved out. It is a very empty place now. And as you can see, there are cast members at the end of the line there. There's a look at the line. There was no one in it at the time, ready to help you make your FastPass Plus reservations. Now around the corner from there, we're actually in Frontierland by this point, looking over at the riverboat dock, and Diamond Horseshoe is over on our right. You perhaps recognize this walkway. It is the bypass around the parade viewing area. And perhaps you can see what they're doing here. They are widening the walkway. So this is going to be a less of a crowded spot right here. And I think it won't be quite so uphill either after they finish grading everything. So that's a welcome change. Saw this over in Adventureland at the Sunshine Tree Terrace. The Tiki Tankard is a plasticware, but it's a neat-looking kind of tiki totem collectible, and only for $10 includes the drink. Switching over to Epcot, the Spice Road table has been open for a couple of weeks now. I'm a little bit late in getting around to it, but I am finally going to give you that review. You can see that it blends in with the rest of the pavilion by trying to look different, so it doesn't try to look the same. I think it's trying to call attention to itself with that color scheme. There's a shot of it kind of at a different angle with different sunlight. And then this is what the approach looks like from within the pathway. So here from within the pathway, it's obviously a lot better aligned with the color scheme that you see elsewhere around the pavilion. So we're going to jump around a little bit. I'm going to show you the menu first, and then we're going to take a tour of some of the shops in the immediate vicinity. I will point out that the menu does say small plates, and indeed they mean small plates, so you'll see what that looks like a little bit later. And we had several of these. We had the rice stuffed grape leaves. We also had the hummus and imported olives entree, and then we had this tingus sampler with lamb slider, chicken roll, and a sausage. So this is what the remainder looks like, and this window is not actually for serving any food. It's just a peek into the shop, which is just inside there. Here's a further look at that shop from the outside, and a couple of shots of what the shop looks like from the inside. Now, they do have similar merchandise to what they used to have in the shops around here previously, if you're familiar with that. So some of the belly dancing, for instance, equipment. They even sell the little cymbals here over the top, and even some music that you can buy for your own home practice of belly dancing. Now, just outside the window from there, outside the door from there, is henna, where they do the temporary tattoos. And then on the other side of the henna is this blue and white juice bar, it's called. Now, it has juices at the bottom, I suppose, and then it has these bottles of beer also. Here's a look from the corner, and there's what the menu itself has. So they do have some slushies as well. It's really more about the slushes than it is about the juices. So we didn't try any of those. It'll be something that we'll probably try over time. Again, with the beers and some of the snacks, I'll show you a close-up of what some of the snacks look like as well. And then a peek into the juice bar in the back. As you can see, it's mostly about the slushes, and then it's just a refrigerator holding most of the rest of the drinks. They do, however, also have ice cream and some fairly exotic flavors of ice cream. Almond rose water flavored ice cream. It's not something I've ever tried before. So let's make our way back into Spice Road. Turning around and looking the other direction before we walk in, you'll see that they've taken away the stand that was here. This was previously kind of a beer and slushy stand. That's what the juice bar replaces. And so they've opened up the walkway now so that it's not so much of a bottleneck here, which is overall a very good thing. And then the stage has got a permanent home, of course, next to that Morocco Museum. Look back before we step into, here we go, into the Spice Road table. And there's a welcoming area, a foyer there with some elaborately carved furniture. There's a bench on the other side, and then this podium up at the front. And this is what a waterfront table would look like. And we'll have a look outside the window in a few moments. First, I'll show you a little bit about the menu. This is starts, as you can see, with the drinks, and they do have some signature cocktails. We tried the Tangiers Breeze, this one here, with peach vodka, Midori, and pineapple juice. And it was very good. It was well made, not overly alcoholic, of course. Disney's drinks usually aren't. So they've got some suggested pairings here as well to go with your small plates, and then the sampler plates are listed on the other side, as well as some desserts. This is one of the back pages with the wine list. I thought I would capture that for you for posterity. And then the very back page explains a little bit about the Spice Road tables history, I guess, and is in fact what the Spice Road itself means via this map. Now I'll show you a couple of shots of the cutlery looks like and the elaborate table, and in fact it's matched by the elaborate decor just around us as we're sitting inside. And there's that view out the window I promised. So as you can, if you're familiar with the lagoon, you can tell that you would have a front row view really of illuminations, except it would also be an obstructed view. These islands would be in the way of some of the action, at least at the water level, ground level itself. Okay, so a couple more shots of the inside dining room. They do have a couple of different dining rooms. As you can see, it's really all about being ornate. And there's a shot from a distance, really, across the entire dining room. There's only the one indoor dining room. Making our way from there back to the central foyer, so the check-in spot is over to our left here. This is obviously the bar zone where you can come in and get drinks, and in fact you can order items from the menu to go. In the background here you'll see the water wheel, which was an element, sort of a theme element from the stuff that was here before. Now it's just been retained as something interesting to look at from the outside. I don't think it serves as a part of anything functional within the restaurant today. Now they do also have an outdoor patio. It's covered, as you can see. And it's currently very nice weather, so it's obviously a bigger draw than the indoor dining on this particular day when we visited, which was, as I say, just about the right temperature. And then some more of the decorations back in the indoor dining room in the upper levels here, looking at it. Then they've got these fancy chandeliers. You can see them, and these light scones all along the walkway and the wall looking outwards. Quick shot into the restroom. You can see the elaborate tile they've got set up there along the sink. Now, finally, to the food. So this bread comes with the hummus and olives, and we'll look at that a little bit more closely. This is the grape leaves, the stuffed grape leaves, and the raisins really made the difference there. And there's that sampler platter in the background. So have another look at that after a moment. There's the grape leaves, $8, however, for only 4 of those. There's the hummus, and that oil was obviously very fresh. And these olives were just amazingly good, and so were the pickles, actually. There's that chicken, which tastes a lot like the sort of chicken egg roll you might get as an appetizer at places like Chili's. Came with a spicy ketchup, and don't miss that lemon if you're going to get it. It changes the whole flavor. There's the lamb slider. We'll look at that more in detail, as well as the sausage. Close-up for you of the hummus. That one's more of a tomato hummus. And there's the sausage. Extremely spicy as an aftertaste, actually. Tomatoes didn't add a whole lot to that, but did cut the flavor a bit. I wanted to show you with a card or an admission card annual pass the size of the slider that we're talking about here. So these are, in fact, small plates, as they promise. And keeping in mind that it was $16 just for these 3. So you're paying about $5 for each one of those. So it's very tasty, but please know that you're going to need to order a lot if you're planning to fill up on that, or maybe it's not about filling up at all. Do you notice what's different here at the Seven Dwarfs Mine Coaster? It's the trees. So they've added some additional trees along the top. You can see a little of them here. I'm zooming in at the moment at one of these building elements. There's the trees there. And they don't appear to be surrounded by any dirt. One guesses those are the artificial variety, and they've appeared on different parts of the mountain. They've closed off and pushed out the walkway a little bit further. In fact, Winnie the Pooh meet and greet area has also pushed the walkway out, so it's kind of a narrow walkway at the moment. I'll peek inside one window. What you're going to see is a mixture of real trees in the foreground and then the fake trees in the background. It's getting quite forested back there. And they've really come a long way in finishing up the rock work in this portion here. A little close-up of those trees. And as you see, they've got some trees scattered around different parts of the mountain. And now in the other peak window, getting harder and harder to see anything in there because there's a lot of different elements crowding around. Now we're walking around even further towards the Be Our Guest, and you can see still more of the trees there. And if you zoom all the way in, as I have done here, what you're going to see is that the work light is on, and we have some confirmation of a little bit of a spoiler. I'll just let the picture do the talking for you. You can probably figure out what the spoiler is just by looking. Okay, this is the first place I've seen this. The Kodak photo spots have been replaced with Nikon picture spots. So the sign is probably about to come out in various places around the parks. I did look at Epcot as well and didn't find any, so maybe this is the first one. Time for our game. Where in Walt Disney World was this? Here was last week's question, and it turns out the answer was in the Diamond Horseshoe, and some of you had gotten it correctly. I think it was for a Toy Story background. I'm not sure exactly what the name of that particular show was, but it's not a common background. You can kind of tell here with these lamps that this was in the Diamond Horseshoe. All right, here's our next question, and the only clue is visual, of course. Where in Walt Disney World was this? Leave your comments in the section below, and we'll find out next week if you were right. Remember, I've got that new book out now. It's the Walt Disney World Yearbook. It's like a yearbook showing all the pictures of things that changed and were added and were removed from the parks in the past year. If you're interested, have a look over on Amazon, and we will catch you guys next week. Thanks as always for watching.